What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. We have an episode today where we're going to be talking about food, the future of food. We're going to be talking about eating insects. And we have Laura DeSaro.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. You are co-founder of Chirps Chips.
Indeed.
Yes, and the COO. You have a lot of operations to be doing to make people excited about insects. So what the hell, eating insects, right? The world's been doing this for a while, but the West is like just starting now.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting history there.
I first saw you guys, you and Rose, on Shark Tank.
Yes.
Was that 2 years ago now?
Last January.
Last January.
So January 2017.
Year and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
Year and a half ago. And Laura's really funny because you burst through the whatever the tarp that you guys had up.
We played kind of a trick almost. We had almost, you run through a banner for a football game.
Exactly.
So I had a cricket costume on and burst through and surprised the sharks. So you don't get to scare celebrities a lot. So that was cool.
I think you scared Barbara, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. I didn't remember that. Okay. And so then you guys successfully pitched them.
We did.
Yes, and raised funding from Mark Cuban.
Yes, indeed.
And now you're Mark Cuban company.
We are. We are now a Mark Cuban company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're not bought by him, but
he owns part of us. So.
He owns part of you guys.
Part of our soul, yeah.
And he has helped you guys a lot with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I've been surprised, right? Because you're like, am I ever going to hear from the sharks again? But every week we send him an update. And
awesome.
He always writes us back, and he's got kind of a team of other people to help out. So, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, Cuban companies. He recently wrote something super interesting, which was that he loves hiring people that take stress away from him, that like help him save time and like, and I'm like, that's totally something that really vibes with a lot of people that are building teams. Is if you can take away, for example, with you guys as well, is if you can find someone that's gonna take a good workload off of you that does it well, like that, you'll pay a lot of money to get people that can do that.
We've been doing a lot of hiring lately, which has been amazing. In fact, I'm actually not doing much operations anymore because we brought on someone who's even better and more experienced. So,
thank goodness for that. You can work on some of the vision now, more of the vision. So, okay, so you and Rose met at Harvard.
Yes.
And then you had both been traveling. This is such an interesting story. So you were traveling, you were African Studies.
Yes, I was.
Major. And then you traveled to where in Africa, Nate Caterpillar?
Yeah, to rural Tanzania.
Rural Tanzania, which is a beautiful country.
Oh, it's so pretty. Yeah, kind of outside of Arusha, one of my favorite spots.
And you ate a caterpillar.
I did. So, I mean, the background here is I grew up mostly vegetarian. And so when I was in Tanzania and I came across this street vendor selling fried caterpillars, I had two thoughts going on in my head. One was, is this vegetarian? Do I eat it? And then the other one, which is more common to everyone, which is, I really want to eat a bug, right? It's wormy, it looks like a worm. But I did. I bought it and I bit down and my first thought was, this tastes like lobster. It's actually really good. And so it started me questioning, like, why are people eating bugs in Tanzania? Why aren't they eating in the United States? And why does this actually taste good?
And this is like at the same time that, or right around the same time then Rose went somewhere else in the world and was introduced to eating scorpion.
Yes, so I got really excited about this. I'm the kind of person who reads about something, gets obsessed. So I got back from Tanzania and just started doing research. And when you type in eating insects, you come up with all of these amazing statistics around how healthy, how sustainable it is. I mean, it was just blowing my mind. I'll throw in one stat here, I won't bore you to death, but for example, to make 1 pound of beef, it takes about 2,000 gallons of water. To make a pound of crickets, it takes about 1 gallon of water. So like orders of magnitude more sustainable.
Damn.
And so I'd eaten this, thought it tasted good, and was like, we gotta do this, we gotta start eating bugs. And so I sent an article to my college roommate, Rose, about eating insects. And she probably would have thought I was like a little loopy, right? Except that she had been in Beijing that summer. And in Beijing, there's a street market, like a night market, where you can get fried scorpions. And so she had been dared, ate a fried scorpion, had a similar reaction to me, which was, this tastes like shrimp. And so we kind of came together over these shared experiences and started trying to answer this question of, can we get other people to eat bugs, and what does this look like?
Yeah. And Okay, this is funny because you guys both made seafood comparisons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, right? So basically both like shrimp, lobsters, insects, they're all arthropods. So they're really all in one big family. In fact, sometimes we call crickets land shrimp because they are so closely related.
Interesting. So this was part of the natural evolution of species on the planet, is as we migrated from ocean to land, then some of the traits arthropods carried over.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix where it's arthropods on land and in the ocean. So yeah.
And is this also don't we see those critters that are also on top of water that jump kind of like a cricket does a little?
That's true. Yeah, they've got like they're called water skaters. There's different names for them. Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. Okay, and so then you guys ended up not doing the classic, let's drop out and go do this. You guys both still finished.
Yeah,
your
so
degrees.
I originally ate insects when I was still in school, but just as time went on, there were more and more articles about it, and so it was actually after I graduated that I was like, let's go full in. And Rose still had a semester left, so she was still in school when we officially started the company. But yeah, I mean, at first we didn't know what we wanted to make, right? Like this big question of how do we get people to eat bugs? It was unclear. The first thing we did.
You could have easily started with cookies, but you decided to start with chips.
I mean,
Yeah.
take a step back further than that.
Yeah.
We weren't sure. We thought at first maybe people would just eat whole bugs.
Whole bugs.
I mean, that's how they eat them all over the world.
Yeah.
And so we went to the local pet stores, like a Petco, and bought every kind of insect we could get our hands on. Waxworms and mealworms and all these kinds of bugs that are perfectly edible but are normally fed to lizards, for example. And we fried them up and tried to feed them to our friends. And what do you think happened?
They were like they're more hesitant if they're not in a form that's relatable to them like a chip is. Yeah.
People were pretty scared by the fact that we were trying to feed them whole insects.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty clear pretty quickly that just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about American food culture, right? Like, we don't eat whole cows, we don't eat whole pigs.
Yeah, that's
We're
true.
probably not going to eat whole insects.
Yeah.
And so you're right, that became the question of what form does this go in? And we have some other examples of food that has been introduced by changing the form. For example, if I were to ask you if you wanted to eat raw fish, you might have hesitations, but if it's in sushi, people are all about it. And so we use
That is
examples
interesting,
like
too.
sushi. And there's all sorts of interesting things in
Yeah,
sushi, right?
I wouldn't just start eating a uncooked piece of salmon with a fork and knife, but if you wrap a tiny piece of that in some rice and some avocado, someone's more likely to eat it.
Right.
Interesting.
So that kind of became the question of, we know this is possible, what do we do with the form? And so we went through different iterations. We ground it up and made kind of a meat out of it for a little bit. And then we eventually landed on, here's a picture. This is cricket
Awesome.
flour, cricket powder. It has different names. And what it is just crickets dried and milled into a super high protein, nutritious powder. And as Americans, we put all sorts of weird powders in our food, right? We put flours as well as protein powders.
Yep.
So this was a form that Americans could get and started to make that transition between thinking of insects as something that is a pest, something you might find like a cockroach under your bed, to thinking of it as a food source. And that was the goal, is how do you make that switch?
Exactly. And then do they need to be frozen first, or they do?
Yes, so I mean, that's
Okay.
a good question. So basically, we can get into how cricket farming works, but basically, yes, the crickets are grown and then they're cold-blooded, so you freeze them so they go to sleep.
They're cold-blooded.
Yes.
They're cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Are most insects cold-blooded?
Yes, they all are.
All of them are.
Yeah.
And that means, is that closer to like 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 or something?
It just means that they don't regulate their own temperature. It's kind of the environment. So actually, an interesting fact about crickets is you can tell how hot it is outside based on how fast they're chirping. And that has to do with the temperature. And so,
Teach us about that.
I don't know the exact conversion. You can look it up, but you can.
More chirps during one of the two cold
The
or hot.
faster they're chirping, the hotter it is
The hotter
outside.
it is.
And you can use it as a pretty accurate thermometer. And they'll stop chirping after it gets too cold. They'll just,
Interesting.
slow down. And so, that's what happens, naturally when it gets cold out, the crickets will fall asleep and not wake up kind of the end of the season.
And our crickets are rubbing their legs?
Yeah, they make that
That's
sound.
what they do to me. That's so,
Yeah.
I just imagine like,
Pretty
like
cool,
rubbing,
right?
like rubbing your legs. That's so interesting. And so, okay, so then that makes the noise, and that noise is usually used for some sort of
Mating, like, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and so cold-blooded, so then you're freezing. So this is, okay, so there's different places in the world, the history of this is so interesting, the different places in the world have been eating insects for a really long time. And do we know how far back this is dated? Like 1,000 years or?
This is like the most paleo food you can possibly imagine, right? We've been eating them since before we're humans. All of our closest relatives, all the great
That's right,
apes.
we're just like taking them from the skin and eating. That is interesting.
So pretty much
this is
everyone.
millions of years.
Yes.
Damn.
We have an enzyme that's specifically meant for breaking down chitin in insects.
Chitin.
So that like
How do I spell that? C or K? Chitin? Okay.
Don't ask me to spell it. You can look it up.
Okay, and it's a protein. What is it?
It's basically, yes, you have an enzyme to break down the chitin, which is the outside of the bug, the like crunchy shell.
Okay. Interesting. And okay, so we have the ability to do this within our
Yes,
bodies.
which means that like we're built to eat insects. In fact, the first creature that had forward-facing eyes and opposable thumbs was an insectivore, meaning it only ate insects. And throughout entire evolutionary history, we've been eating bugs. And even to this day, more people eat insects than speak English. So
there's like 1 billion people that speak English, and then there's like 2 billion people that eat bugs or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
2.5 billion people are eating insects regularly.
I've seen all those images of those markets that just have like insects in the markets.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa. It's just a normal thing, like where we see vegetables and fruits. We don't have farmers markets with insects yet. Maybe one day in the West we will.
And that was an interesting question for me when I first got back from Tanzania. It's like, why are we not eating insects here in the United States? And it turns out that actually the Native Americans even ate insects. And when the Europeans came over, the Native Americans would give them like these things called prairie cakes, which were insects mixed with various vegetables. And they thought they were delicious until they found out what they were made out of. I think a lot of the reasons that we don't eat insects here in the United States is just actually because of European culture. Europe's a pretty cold place for the most part, not a lot of huge, delicious tropical insects. And so Europe didn't have too much of an insect eating culture. And when they came to the United States, kind of killed off the insect eating culture that we had here with the Native Americans.
Okay, so the farming process.
Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about this.
Okay, this is obviously a big question. Where do you get your crickets? Where do they come from? And actually one of my favorite things about insects, because you can urban farm crickets. So if you think about the food system, there's lots of problems with our current food system. But normally, you have to grow cows and pigs out in the countryside, right? But you can grow crickets in any kind of warehouse. So when you think about a cricket farm, it's usually like a big warehouse with shelving units.
Do we need free-range crickets? This is
This
important,
is a really big question, actually.
Yeah.
They're not free range. In fact, you can't wild harvest insects because you just don't know what they've gotten into, especially in our polluted world. You have to make sure that you know what they're eating. And cricket farms are incredibly sanitary, incredibly controlled.
But they won't eat each other.
Won't eat each other if they're properly cared for. If you put too many crickets in too close together, that's where it comes in, where you have to have the proper environment and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you have a big warehouse full of bins of cricket.
Bins,
yeah, like given enough space with egg cartons and like a little cricket environment. There's some great pictures. Google cricket farm, you'll get some good pictures of what they look like. But what's neat about it is because they can be in urban areas, you can feed them on food waste. I don't mean food waste, I mean food waste in terms of if a local grocery store has too much lettuce for that week. Normally they'd have to throw it out. And they could hypothetically bring it out to the farms in the country, but the transportation costs are really high. But if you have it locally, you can feed that lettuce to the crickets in the cricket farm, and then reduce the distance from farm to table as well, because now you've got the crickets right there in the city where people can eat them.
Are we normally feeding crickets lettuce?
I mean, crickets can eat, think of them like a pest in your garden, right? They can eat all sorts of different vegetable matter. So it's normally basically vegetables mixed with, often they'll have like a cricket feed that gives them some extra vitamins and minerals.
And do we know what the cricket feed is?
They can eat all sorts of different things. So often you'll have extra proteins or like you can add extra iron. Crickets are, depending on what you feed them, you can change their nutrition and taste quite a bit. So different farms will formulate their cricket feed to have different elements in order to supplement their crickets and make them as healthy as you can.
Okay, so then you have a farm yourself, a warehouse in Austin, Texas?
So we don't have a cricket farm, but we work with cricket farmers all over who are growing these farms and making these crickets. I mean, cricket farming has been going on for a long time.
Now, you've explored the business of sourcing from farmers versus starting your own, and it just makes more sense to source because they already have it down.
We thought about this, and we thought about, do we start our own cricket farm? And it became a question of like, what part of this supply chain do we want to be on? But ultimately, you can have billions of crickets, but if no one's buying them, it doesn't really matter. And so what we were more interested in is, how do we change people's minds? How do we get them more excited about eating insects? And then, then that's where it matters, the whole supply chain and the cricket farms and all of that. But we have to start with changing minds. And so that's where we realized that we had the most experience. We are not cricket farmers. We have no experience growing crickets. And a lot of the cricket farmers have been doing it for generations. So we said, we'll let the cricket farmers with generations of experience work on that, and we'll start on actually creating something that we'll eat made out of bugs.
Yeah, so then you guys are on the inspiration and the marketing and the distribution side of things. Okay, so you're sourcing from the US mostly?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, we're starting to look into where else can we get crickets from, because we talked about people eat insects all over the world. And so that's also really exciting. But, for right now, mostly here in the United States, with potential for growth everywhere. I mean, you could imagine a pretty cool model where there was a delicious worm grown in Zimbabwe, and you could give those local worm farmers a market here in the United States. But there's some more barriers you have to jump over to import insects and the like.
And then turn it into something that people would eat, like chips.
Chips if you want to talk about the larger vision for a minute, what's exciting about insects is that you can make all sorts of different foods from them, right? I mean, they are an animal-based protein, so
and you're usually making this from the flour, right?
You could, but actually, what I think would be very exciting would be to make a meat replacement with them, because for a very long time we've been trying to make plants taste like animals, but plants and animals are fundamentally pretty different, right? It's hard to make a plant taste like an animal.
Well, now we have the whole clean meat movement as well, where we're actually just growing it from a cell, which is fantastic.
There's growing from a cell. I mean, we're working on all sorts of different ways to.
What's this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, here we go. This is a great example. So this is a mealworm falafel. I think we need a better word than mealworm, but mealworms actually have a pretty similar.
Interesting.
Like, taste like beef. Like, if I were to give this to you right now and you didn't know what it was, you'd think it tasted pretty good. And so I've been doing a lot of experimenting around different insects.
Here, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. This is the mealworm.
So insects already are an animal-based protein, and so it's all 9 essential amino acids. It's a complete protein, and you can create tastes that are much more similar to other animal meat than you can from a plant, and with a lot less processing. Like, it takes a lot of processing to make a veggie burger actually taste like meat.
So now you're also interested in like mealworm. So you're interested in other insects.
I mean, you have to start somewhere. And I think if I were to ask you, would you rather eat a mealworm or would you rather eat a cricket? Do you have a preference?
Now that I've ate a cricket, I'll definitely eat a mealworm.
Nice. We call crickets our gateway bug.
Gateway bug.
It's like, what's the easiest to eat insect? One reason we started with crickets. And I think worms have an especially scary connotation, like fear factor and ooey and gooey, which is actually one reason why we're working with chips, because chips are crunchy. And so it helps a little bit with that worry of biting into something squishy, which I think is one of the trigger points for people with.
Yes. So walk us through this. So we take we freeze, then just grind. It just goes through. Just
you roast it, yeah. So you
roast them.
Roast and then grind into a powder. So in a similar way you'd make any kind of powder flour, just a very fine grinding process until it looks just kind of like a whole wheat flour.
And then from here, then you sell this as well.
We do.
The cricket flour, and you can put that into cookies or what other kind of things?
Really anything. I mean, you can make a pizza crust. You could make a cookie. You can make banana bread. There's so many different options, and you just replace a percentage of the regular flour with the cricket powder, and you get a lot more protein, vitamins and minerals. Adds like a little bit of a nutty taste to it.
Like a pancake?
Yeah, cricket pancakes are amazing.
That's interesting. I want to try cricket cake.
So
That's
we're selling the flour so that you can make it yourself. And
maybe we sell a pancake mix.
you know, there's possibilities. We sell a cookie mix already.
I know you guys. Oh, yeah, that's right. The cookie mix. We have a cookie mix up here.
Not here. You'll have to go on our website. But
Okay, cool.
the cookie mix is actually amazing. I would highly recommend it.
I really wanted you to bring a cookie, but next time. Because cricket cookies sound. The alliteration is also interesting. Chirps Chips.
Chocolate, or maybe with chocolate chirp cookies.
Chocolate chirp
cricket cookies.
Chocolate
Say
chirp
that 5 times
cookies.
fast.
Chocolate chirp cricket cookies. Chocolate chirp cricket cookies. Chocolate chirp.
I hear what you did there.
You're doing pretty well.
The alliteration's it's quite good. So now let's keep going. So we have the flour, and then now for the chips, at least you're adding corn.
Yeah. So our chips, I mean, it's basically just corn, crickets. We add in some chia seeds and basically just seasoning. Just mix it all up, and voila, you get chirps.
So I actually this is interesting enough. This was my first time trying these, and I really like them a lot. This is the old packaging, but I still like it. It's very friendly, and like the two little the two little ears, of the eye. You're right. It really doesn't taste different.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit nutty. We'll ask people sometimes to differentiate. People don't normally know quite how to describe what a cricket tastes like. It adds a little bit of depth to it, I think.
I think you're right about that nutty and that depth. Yeah, one cricket per.
That's right. So you can count your crickets as you go. We work a lot with kids who like to count their crickets and adults who like to count their crickets as well.
I haven't tried this one yet. This is your new packaging.
Yes, this is new packaging and new flavor.
I like the new packaging.
Thank you.
Definitely pops, because it's got the white and black, and then you kind of got the cool red and green on it.
We've kind of gone more to embrace the eat bugs, because if you look at the old packaging, let's see, it does say eat bugs or on there somewhere, but it's smaller.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Is that we went from chirps being the biggest thing to now being eat bugs. That's I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what we found out was that.
Try the sriracha.
Oh yeah,
flavor.
let us know. We'll talk more about the packaging in a minute.
Yeah.
See what you think.
I'm excited to try the sriracha flavor. These are really good.
Yeah.
This is well done. Majority of the ingredients are just stone ground corn and then the cricket protein blend.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just seasoning, and it's pretty general seasoning.
It's just basically, this is sriracha, so we just, peppers and salt, and that's pretty much it.
It tastes really good.
Well, thank you. I mean, in one serving, you get 5 grams of protein, so as much protein as
one
an egg.
One bag is 5 grams?
Yeah. So you could eat an egg, or you could eat a little bag of chips. So we'll think of it as, normally you don't get protein when you're eating chips, right? Normally you just get empty carbs, and so it's a way to get some more protein and get some more nutrients.
Yeah. Are you considering going for a larger, rebrand bugs?
I mean, it's been an interesting question. So this original packaging, it's really cute. We've got our little chirpy guy here. But the problem was that when it was on shelves, it was just getting lost in the whole, there's so many chips in the chip aisle. And so we went to the new packaging that says eat bugs with the black and white, because ultimately, people are going to find out there's bugs in it. There's no hiding it, right? So it's a little controversial, but if you see eat bugs in big letters, you can like it or you can dislike it, but at least you're going to notice it. At least you're going to be able to have an opinion on it, and maybe even try it the first time for novelty, and then realize, oh wow, this actually tastes good. Share it with your friends and start this larger movement. Because when you hold this bag, you're making a statement. You're saying, I eat bugs, versus with this, it's a little bit less clear what you're saying or what it stands for.
That's a good point. Well done on the packaging design.
Thank you.
Really well done. I like it a lot. It's very clean, and it definitely is pushing that eat bugs, and you are making that statement.
Yeah.
Barbecue, cheddar, sea salt, sriracha.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 right now?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. And we got a discount code. We'll definitely, simulation, 10% off the order at checkout. Give eat bugs, give Chirps Chips a go.
Definitely a fun thing to bring to your party. That'd probably be my recommendation if you want to try it. Figure out when your next get together with friends is.
Yes.
Because chips are a super social product, and it can be a conversation all around sustainability and food, and people probably won't even know the difference. But
and then you can be the one that they all say, "Oh, Alan was the one that introduced me to crickets."
Yeah, you get to be the cool friend.
Yeah, you get to be the cool
with
friend.
the cool future of food there.
Yeah. Ron also got to try the chips. What did you think, Ron?
I think you were at something happening on Market Street a few months back, where I forget the venue. It was down the street a ways, and I think I had some there as well. So
nice.
yeah, I'm a big fan, and 5 grams of protein per bag.
Yeah.
Has the vegetarian vegan platform giving you a hard time yet?
That's a really good question, Ron.
Do they give you a hard time?
Do we have that stamp of vegetarian approval if you eat insects?
So it's an interesting question, and it's what I love having with vegetarians, because it begs the question, why am I vegetarian, right? And so we're thinking about it as another option. So some vegetarians are all about it. Like if you're vegetarian for sustainability reasons, insects are more sustainable than many plant-based sources. So
1 gallon of water for a pound of insects versus 2,000 gallons of water for a pound of beef.
Yep.
That's massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of land usage, water usage, these are more sustainable than plant-based sources. And so a lot of vegetarians are like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is a way that I can get like B12, for example, which you normally only get from animal-based sources. It's sustainable. But it's not for everybody. I'd say it's 50-50 and really depends on why you're vegetarian. If you...
I'm just quick on the mic.
Yeah.
Just like,
there we go.
Now we're good. Go ahead.
It's also from a moral perspective. I touched my mic there, but so I'm really against our factory farming system. I think it's pretty terrible to stick really, really large animals in small cages. But what's cool about insects is that they're pretty small animals, and they need a lot less space to be happy, right? You've got a beehive or an anthill that has a natural small space, and so as long as you're growing them in a sustainable, moral way, which you can with insects, this makes a lot more sense to me. So for many vegetarians, it's a good answer. We don't ever pressure people. Some people are saying, no, a bug is an animal, and it doesn't make sense to me. But the more choices that we can give people, we think the better. And there's actually a term for it. So if you...
What is the term?
You can be an entotarian.
Entotarian?
So like a pescatarian eats fish, an entotarian eats insects.
It's insects.
Because ento means insect.
Entotarian.
Aren't there plants that eat bugs also, though? That's where the whole... Yeah, right.
It's true.
So, come on.
Plants eat
the
bugs.
argument. There's no end to the argument.
And another question that probably vegetarians and vegans are kind of interested in is like, how much consciousness does an insect have versus like a dog or a cat or a cow or a pig, chicken, because we do see varying levels of consciousness.
Well, we know certain things, like most insects don't have pain receptors. So that's a big one. Yeah, right?
They don't have a nervous system?
Very limited,
right?
incredibly limited central nervous system. So, again, everything's a spectrum, right? From bacteria to humans. And so insects are further down that. So you kind of have to start thinking, where am I comfortable? What makes sense for me?
What level of consciousness will I start eating?
But like plants even seem to, when you cut off a part of a plant, they'll often communicate with each other or send out stress responses. And so, it's all a larger conversation. Nothing's ever black and white. But for me, the fact that they don't feel pain is definitely a boon.
Yeah. So we have a good slide up here as well. Yeah, walk us through this. So why eat bugs?
Definitely. So kind of the background here is that the livestock industry is one of the biggest contributors to environmental problems. So half of the fresh water in the United States goes to the livestock industry.
That's a fuckload.
Half. It's absolutely insane.
And that's mostly to things like these pound of beef, that 2,000 gallons of water.
And it's just so much water.
We've had one of our friends is Benjamin Grant, who does the satellite photography, and he has a satellite photo of this cow farm in Texas, and it's just massive.
Yeah.
And there's little tiny dots. They're all cows, and there's just a crazy amount of them.
And actually, on that point, like, if we skip down to the greenhouse gas emissions, when you go by those areas, you smell it, right? Because these cows are letting off so much methane.
And it's concentrated in those areas, yeah.
It's intense. Versus crickets, it's like 100 times less for the same amount of meat. I mean, across all of these, you'll keep seeing the same kind of compare and contrast of hundreds of times, thousands of times better.
And the food miles also cost a lot in terms of energy to move food to the destination being eaten. Food waste is just crazy in the U.S. That's really big. I wonder if it's that high in China.
I mean, all around you've got this problem where you're growing your cows off in the country and then needing to ship them all over. So for us, insects can answer so many of these questions. And at the end of this, after eating insects and looking at these statistics, it's like, why aren't we eating bugs? And the answer is really just a mental game. And so that's been obviously our mission, is how do we change that? How do we change minds? How do we bring eating insects mainstream? Yeah.
Nice. This is super educational. I'm really loving it. Yeah. And it's also inspirational because I think that when you take a life experience like you guys going to different countries and then seeing what a different culture does and then saying that, interesting, how can we bring some of this back to the West?
Yeah.
And then you go and start a business and you become entrepreneurs, and then you inspire other people to care about this and understand it more, and environmentally it makes sense. So it is very inspirational, Laura. This is awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So now you've done some really interesting stuff as well with, you did a blood test, and then you went and you ate insects for a week.
Yeah, it was, really a month. So this all kind of started because I realized that even though I have this bug company, I'm a co-founder, it's not like I'm eating bugs for every meal. And I was like, if I'm not eating bugs as a regular part of my diet, how can I expect anyone else to be doing this? And so kind of started this challenge where for a month I decided to eat insects for every single meal and see how I felt, see what tasted good. And so beforehand I did all of my blood work.
Okay, now quick question.
Yeah.
Would you eat a normal meal and just add a couple chips to it, or would you take the flour and make a meal with the flour?
Well, all sorts of different iterations, right? Definitely snacked on some chirps, but it was mostly about beyond chirps, like the future of what this could look like.
We have a phone call from the universe.
Excuse me.
Hello, universe.
Hello, universe. Yes.
But basically, for example, making a yogurt parfait and then adding ants. Ants, for example, are kind of sour. When they bite you, it hurts because they have formic acid. But when you eat them, it tastes like lemon.
When you eat ants, it tastes like lemon?
Yeah, it depends on the kind of ants. Some are a little spicy. The ones I was eating were mostly lemony. And so you can add them in. There's actually a picture here somewhere.
So you're really tinkering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Top chefs are working with insects now. It's from a culinary perspective, it's this
top chefs are now
undiscovered food group. Yeah,
that's cool.
What picture are we looking for?
If you go to the pictures of food, you'll see one. Let's see. There's a creme brulee, for example. Oh, there we go. So this is a creme brulee. And ordinarily you might make a lemon creme brulee, but we did it with ants because you get that same sourness.
Interesting. And so chefs will. Whoa.
Yeah.
Chefs starting to use this. So
like Noma, for example, one of the top restaurants in the world, works with insects because there's so many interesting flavors. I think we talked about this one.
What was a worm? Yeah. What was it? Worm?
Oh, well, so.
What was that one?
Mealworms?
Mealworms.
Yeah, so mealworms.
And ants. And so you were tinkering for a month with different types
with every single meal, just adding these in and seeing what could happen. Like this is a banana bread, but we use the cricket flour.
Yep.
So we get a lot more protein and nutrients from it. And like a kind of nutty taste to it all. There were some insect dishes that I cooked that were amazing and some that I was like, don't recommend this. It's kind of like any food. It's like learning how to cook with chicken. Like what do you do with it? How do you cook it? Yeah. And that was my month experiment. And then took kind of my favorite recipes and put them together. So you go onto our social media, you can find some of our recipes. We have a whole blog about it, what actually worked well, what we'd recommend. And then for the last week, I ate only bugs. Just to kind of, more of an experiment of like what happens.
Yeah.
and then did my blood work.
And what was your blood work?
Well, kind of the most exciting thing was, as a vegetarian, before my B12 levels were borderline low, because we talked about B12 you get from animal-based sources. And after the month of eating bugs, my B12 levels had increased to right in the right place, like significantly into the middle range. And
Awesome.
so, like, that's amazing. You can actually increase your B12 levels by eating insects.
And other biomarkers, how did they turn
Nothing
out?
else really changed that much. I mean, I was a pretty healthy individual before and
Yeah.
was healthy afterwards. I lost a few pounds, which was interesting. I think
Yeah.
insects are pretty high in protein, and so, I just felt a lot more satiated than I normally would. But besides that, insects are food, and by replacing, what you might have with meat with insects, not much changes. It's just another food source.
So interesting. Okay, so you have chips. You are moving into a little bit of cookie now.
Yeah, we've got a cookie mix. Great, fun holiday gift or fun thing to make out with friends.
And then you're exploring potentially other insects.
Exploring other insects, and then we also sell the cricket powder
As well.
itself. And yeah.
So this is kind of your vision and where you're building this out. What do you think then the future of food? We were talking a little bit about clean meat.
Yeah.
We're growing meat from cells. It's interesting work. More people are eating insects, which are much more environmentally friendly, but still protein filled. Where do you think it's all heading?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that these are all going to be options, and I am pushing insects to be part of that conversation around meat, right? There's this big problem of this is not a sustainable way to eat. You saw all the statistics around our meat industry. And so that's why there's all of these different solutions popping up, like lab-grown meat, and how do we, the Impossible Burger and some of these other solutions of maybe we can make plants taste like animals. And kind of our solution here is we have a protein source that we've been eating since the dawn of man that tastes good and is good for the world and needs a lot less processing, for example, than a plant-based source that tastes like meat. So let's bring this into the conversation as well. And so kind of what the future holds, I mean, what we're looking at is walking into your local grocery store and having insect powders of various kinds and all sorts of different things. Similarly, how you'd flip something over and see a whey or a soy protein, you'd just have insects in all sorts of different products. And in the meat arena, you might walk into your local restaurant and you could get a beef burger or a
Universe again.
Hi, Universe.
Yes.
Call me Universe. So you could get a beef burger or a chicken burger or a bug burger, might be called an ento burger or a chirps burger, whatever it's called. And those would all be options and all ways for people to eat more sustainably.
I like the idea of being able to walk to the grocery store and seeing the types of insect flowers and being able to go make stuff, like see your recipes and go and try those recipes out.
It's just, I mean, right now it's shocking, right? And the goal is for it to not be. The goal is for it to just be, oh yeah, there's bugs in this. And it to not be a discussion. For this show that we're having right now to be irrelevant because this is no longer an interesting conversation. This is just the way that we eat.
The way that we eat, yep.
So I hope that in 15 years, you don't have me back on your show.
Well, in 15 years, you come back on the show because you're going to have new product lines that are,
That's fair, but
but it'll be normalized.
Yeah.
It'll be normalized, and you'll be doing some other kind of crazy visionary work with sustainability and food.
Do you have to make it into a powder? Like, could you have like a cricket pizza? Just take the actual whole cricket and just, like an anchovy, something like that?
I think again it goes back to this metaphor about like the gateway bug. And it's possible, right? So kind of an interesting example is the Seattle Mariners, the baseball team. They're selling whole grasshoppers at their baseball games. And they've been selling out every single game. And that's because people, like go ahead.
That's
I don't know, it's shocking,
unbelievable.
right?
Yeah, and Major League Baseball
Concession?
team sells grasshoppers
Yeah.
in their food?
So it's just like a little container of seasoned grasshoppers. In Mexico, they're called chapulines and a really common snack.
Chapulines.
And so basically they've just been selling them, and what will happen is a group of friends, you'll have one adventurous friend who will want to try it and then hand out the grasshoppers, and everybody's been loving
Try
it.
it. And you're eating them whole.
You are, and that's the shocking part is we're here talking about grinding them into a different format, and yet we've got some Seattleites over there eating whole bugs. So we're not quite there yet over the whole country, but I think there's a possibility. However, I think for right now, this cricket flour, cricket protein, and a format like a chips probably an easier introduction.
Couple quick questions on the way out. I have some thoughts for you. Let me adjust one more time here.
Yeah.
Bring this back up like that. Awesome.
Great.
Now we're good. Okay, first question is, we ask this question a lot, and I think it's important to ask you because you're so focused on sustainability food. There's quite a bit of exponential technology that's happening across different fields, and it's exacerbating the wealth gap quite a bit, even though the bottom's slowly coming up, kind of rocketing upward. What do you think is kind of going to happen with that middle?
Are you talking about cricket specifically here, or was this
talking about just in general socioeconomic?
Yeah, I mean, I think unless something changes, this is a reality. I don't have any, particular insights besides that it is happening, and I think Rose, my co-founder, and I were discussing whether in our lifetimes we're going to see the first trillionaire. And I think there's a significant possibility that we will.
We absolutely will, especially because of artificial intelligence and robotics and automation. That's going to help so much.
I mean, an interesting thing in our field is that Amazon bought Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing, even in the food industry, technology creeping in and kind of taking over. And we've been seeing a lot of small grocery stores shutting down because people are buying their food on Amazon more often. Millennials don't actually want to go to their local grocery store. Yeah. And so, it's a problem.
Well, maybe it is the future, but if it gets monopolized by one company, then what? I mean, and maybe if Amazon's prices are so low and that maybe it's not that bad of a thing. Who knows? I mean, it's a tough.
I mean, it's an interesting one even with crickets, because we've got these automated farms for cows and chickens and pigs, and it's something we're a little bit worried about for crickets is what happens when we have all of these automated factory farming for crickets? How do we make sure that we build a system that is more sustainable with crickets than with other animal sources? And it's something that we're conscious of as we're building this, not create another monstrosity, not to replace one problem with another.
Good point. I have to ask, are you guys looking into blockchain technology for your crickets at all?
No.
Yeah.
This comes up a lot.
Good.
Not yet. We're very much focused in the food industry, and no blockchains yet. We'll keep you posted.
Put your bags of chips on the decentralized digital ledger.
Decentralized, yep.
Yeah.
Decentralized crickets. I don't know.
Yeah. I have to ask because it's just so funny because it's so hype, and there's a lot of really good uses for it. But then there's also if you were to be like, yeah, we're using blockchain now, and there is for the food system, there is interesting ways to leverage the decentralized digital ledgers.
It has been a conversation for sure.
Yeah, to make sure that where you're sourcing it from is the actual location that you're getting it from. All this stuff.
I mean, in that case, in that larger context, I'm sure at some point, if we figure out blockchains for the whole food systems, crickets will be tied in. But
definitely.
we're not currently.
Yeah.
We're not currently. The food industry is old. We still fax things. This is the reality. So blockchains are a little bit of a distant future.
You're still faxing your purchase orders and stuff?
Slowly dying out, but we had to get a fax number when we first started this because it was the only way to communicate.
With some of the.
With different distributors and different stores even, they wanted a faxed order.
Damn.
So, there's apps on your smartphone, luckily, to help out with that. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing that I was thinking about was every time somebody buys a bag of Chirps, they can get a Chirp coin.
Chirp coin.
And then they can turn in their Chirp coins for currency, for more bags of chips, whatever.
It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
The Chirp coin.
The Chirp coin?
It's alliteration.
Can we steal that one from you?
Totally, yeah.
All right.
Run with it. Yeah, please. These
ideas
are not mine. They just run through me and out to the world. Yeah. That's interesting. So, okay, how about we ask you, do you think that we're alone in the cosmos?
Oh my goodness. No, there's no way. I mean, that's my personal belief, but there's so many planets. Just from a statistical point of view, the conditions needed in order to create life forms that are similar to ours, with the number of planets and the number of conditions, it seems highly probable that there's other intelligent life out there. whether we have communicated with them, and all of that, I think, is still, the larger question and still up in the air. But,
Do you think there's another Laura DeSaro on some other rock orbiting a star, building Chirps Chips?
Not sure. I think that's a little bit less likely.
Okay.
Similar to, there's each snowflake is different, right? And there's some snowflakes that are much more similar. So I'm sure that there are other human beings that, even on planet Earth, that look like me, are more similar to me, and throughout the universe, perhaps. But exactly the same seems less likely. But I'm more of an expert on crickets than the cosmos. So
we definitely like to ask.
You got to bring in another guest who is
that's
looking
why
into that.
we like to dip people into multidisciplinary fields of thinking as well. So that's why we pull people in. Okay, 2 more.
All right, let's hear it.
This one is, do you think we're in a simulation?
Yeah, friends have been talking about this lately. I'm going to go with no. I mean, I know that people say that again, statistically it could be probable, but I just like to believe that this is real, whether, I don't think there's enough information to really know, but I'm going to go with no on that one. We'll see how that pans out.
We're trying to hack into the fabric of reality to see if we can get an answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question is, what do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
Wow, the most beautiful thing in the world. Oh, that's a great question. The first thing I come to think of is just nature. You go to somewhere outside of everything that humans have built. I think the things humans have built are incredible, but they often aren't even as perfect as the things that the world has on its own. Like if you look at a seashell, for example, just the beautiful patterns that are inside of it. Or you're out in the middle of a field and looking at the way that a piece of grass grows.
These sacred geometries and fractals.
All of that, it's really incredible. And I think that we often think that we can make things that are better than nature and have replaced a lot of nature, but I still think that there's so much inspiration to come from all of the things that are not man-made.
Yeah, that's a really
And I'm worried
good point.
about losing that as technology progresses and virtual reality. And I think there's times for our reality to not be augmented.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. There's times for our reality to not be augmented.
Yeah.
So just this normal system of perception that we have, 5 senses, and not be augmented to be able to, feel plants and see electromagnetism and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But just to slow down and be in nature. And also, interestingly enough, we've progressed so much towards metropolitan areas and now densely populated and skyscraper stuff that now we have to go make trips out to nature.
To visit nature is such a strange concept, right?
Yeah.
Our ancestors would think that was indeed pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good one. It's really a deep appreciation for our world around us. Yeah. This has been such a pleasure. Holy cow. Thanks for coming on to our show.
Holy cricket.
Holy cricket.
Holy cricket.
Oh, that's so funny. No more saying holy cow.
Yeah, cows were the past, crickets are the future.
Holy cricket.
It's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
That's funny. I love it. Okay, awesome. So, all right. Well, what a great project as well. Focus on sustainability. Focus on convincing people that eating insects is cool, and it's been cool for a while, and now it's time to make it more cool.
That's the idea. So and if you viewers try cooking with insects, let us know how it goes. We're always looking for more recipes and more ideas.
Chirps Chips on Instagram.
Yep.
Chirps Chips on Instagram. Tag them. Let's see what you make with the flowers.
Yeah.
Simulation 10% off at checkout. Go check it out. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you guys had a good time, go share the content with 2 other people. Just go talk to them about hey, you want to eat some insects? You got to go get a bag from a store. What stores are you guys in?
Kind of all over. You can check our store locator at chirpschipscom, or you can get them on Amazon, as most products these days.
Yes, get them on Amazon. Check out the store locator as well. Get them near you. Go get some. Go try them. Be that person that brings them to a party and is just hey, you want to eat an insect? That's great. Go share it with people. Also, go make something with this. Don't just consume the content. Go create. Go write about it. Go read about it. Go create with it. Also, subscribe. Join us. Talk about us in the community. We'd love to help foster that. and join us on Patreon. Help us sustain this, help us grow it, help us impact more people. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Much love.
Woo!
Woo! Woo!